Hey, welcome everybody. Today's group readings, we have 3 groups for you to choose from. Group 1 with the butter knife, Group 2 with the teaspoon, and Group 3 with the fork. Today's reading, I'm going to title it after the video has been put out because it's going to be something along the lines of like what would be best for you right now. And the other thing that I was kind of getting in was potentially like what thoughts are holding you back. So I'm not really sure what direction this will hit off in. It could end up being just a little bit of everything, and we'll see what comes out, okay? So we will get started with Group 1. Okay, welcome. If you chose the butter knife, then this will be your reading today for Group 1. The very first thing that I was kind of getting was something along the lines of like intrusive thoughts and imposter syndrome. So in this group, you could have been, whatever it is that you've experienced could have had you a little bit on guard or defensive, and this might not have even been anything recent. This could have been something, I kind of feel like you might have been in this energy for a little while of, it's like that looking over the shoulder energy, or not being sure about other people, or just, it's not even, I don't even feel like you particularly get really mental with it. It seems more of like a nervous system reaction or an instinctual thing, is just being like on lookout or something like that. Being very protective, guarded, all of that. You could potentially be keeping people out a little bit, or at odds with certain people, something like that. But it seems like you're very much like working very hard to kind of free up that mental energy and free up that space and get back to like a more of like happy, positive, bubbly or spontaneous energy. Or even if it is just the ability to like communicate openly in a way that you can actually like start to have good relationships again, or you can start to like get involved in the community, or start to network, or just kind of bridge the gap between you and others. It's like building friendships and having lots of conversations and whatnot as well. So yeah, I feel like for some of you, I do need to say that it does feel like a bit more of like a, maybe having previously had your guard up to, it could be any connection, but there's definitely confirmation here for some people that it could have just been like no to romantic relationships, and you've been doing the work, doing the time, showing up, being diligent in what you do. And I think to a degree, it's like being self-aware, but also focusing on yourself and your own life, and kind of, putting in the grounds to make your life good before you even worry about it too much. And it's sort of, in its own right, is coming to fruition to get you into a place where you're a little bit more open, you're a little bit more ready to kind of conversate with people, even if, like, I do feel like some of you here are probably the most open to the thought or the idea of navigating a relationship than maybe what you have been for some time. Some of you, that could be up to, say, 7 or 9 years. I feel for a lot of you, it's probably not that long, not as long as that. But that will be specific time frame for maybe just a small group of people here. Anyway, moving on. Or even 6 to 9, yeah. Okay, so some of you, I do feel like you could come into meeting with a person that has no children yet. Or if you already have a child, this could potentially be a relationship that would bring in a sibling. Yeah. For some of you, this is also actually working on repairing the relationship with a sibling. It's like you may have, for whatever reason, kind of had your back up with them, but it's like you've done some type of work here where you do want to bridge the gap. And so I'm not really sure what way that'll pan out, but we're going to take more cards and sort of see what we get and what happens. I just heard spirit is guiding you. So for those of you that are not particularly like, you don't think of yourselves as spiritual people or anything like that, there is always that sentiment that like you are being led or guided even in the times that you don't realize that you are. And it works in like weird and wonderful ways, and I will just leave that there. Okay. Yeah, so I'm getting something about like the bedrock or the foundation or the underpinning of like where you had started out from was actually like a lot of betrayal. It could have been like an abandonment type wound, and it also could have been for some of you that old analogy of like people, you know, putting knives in your back to kind of climb over you and using you as like the stepping stone to sort of get somewhere else. So just depending, just take what resonates there. I'm also getting something, they're saying clarification. So for some of you, you could have reached clarification through like the experiences that you've had, and that in itself, maybe you could have started out like a lot more like open or naive, or even if it wasn't that, just like having a general enthusiasm for life, or just being quite an optimistic person or something like that. And so it's not that that was a bad thing, but it could have made you particularly susceptible to situations that would not have actually been like service to you. So it was in some ways, as much as other people may have used you in a sense to try to get ahead, or they've really just gone, I don't know, I get this weird thing where it's like some people just needed a place to stick a knife and they were like, that person looks good. So it was kind of like a sentiment of, they look like they would not come for me. They look like a person who would not stand up for themselves. They look like a person who they're not going to get me back, or they don't have the heart to kind of, you know, return that energy or something. Or this person won't see it coming. This person's never experienced that before, so they're not wiser to it. I can kind of, you know, get around it. This person, you know, it may take longer to kind of recover from that, or they may not socially navigate it in a way that would be best for them, where people would actually like, you know, I don't know, kind of like get on board or understand what they have to say readily. So I feel like I'm picking up on a few different things, and hopefully I'm not jumping around too much. Hopefully this all makes sense to you guys, but we'll keep going. So the clarification on this Ten of Swords, for some of you, it's like you were just left to kind of deteriorate, or you were left alone. You were left to, I don't know, I'm getting like the word abolish. So for some of you guys, something could have happened pretty heavy hitting, and there was just like no one there for you. Like everyone turned their backs, or everyone was gone, or you were just kind of, I don't know, I almost get like a left in the gutter type of energy. And that I'm really hoping that's just like an analogy. Only take what resonates here. Obviously we have people, you know, some people this is like really raw and real and hitting and quite specific, whereas there are other people here where it's more of like that figure of speech, right? Or it's maybe like, yeah, it was still pretty punchy, but maybe it didn't roll us quite the same way. Yes. Okay, do we need more clarification? No. Okay, cool. So I'm getting the words, the 4 pillars to communication. So I've got 5 cards here, so I'm trying to work out what those 4 pillars might be, but I think I have a funny feeling there's going to be something about like each of these 2 cards coming together will kind of make a pillar, if that makes sense for those of you following along watching the cards. So yeah, I'm getting like a foundational bedrock energy here. So the first one is kind of being contemplative, being well thought out. So sometimes there's like an element to just letting our thoughts like pop up and kind of float through as they come up, and being present of mind to give ourselves space to allow that to happen. But sometimes it's actually like carving out time in the day to actively actually think about something and try to be objective in whatever our like rationale or our thoughts are around a subject or a topic. Try to look at things from, it doesn't feel like different angles, but it's just like maybe taking everything into account, right? Kind of trying to do our best to have, I don't know, it's like having the information necessary, but don't be weighed down by it. Don't let it really run you ragged. But there's also something where like that energy, and it's like being logical and methodical. There's really like a strong thing here of like, does that actually make sense? What is the likelihood? Or like not even really going into what ifs. What do we know? What do we not know? You know, that sort of thing. But there's also something here about like when you've been able, for some of you, it could have, that energy might make you at times feel a little bit burnt out or a little bit exhausted. And so the thing is, you may not want to do that because of how it makes you feel. But this is part of this, like one of these 4 pillars of the communication, is that it's kind of like a cost that just comes with being alive and living, right? So like if you go for a run, you're just going to be tired, or maybe the next day your muscles might be a little bit sore. The way that they're bringing this through is that it's not to create anxiety. It's not to get stuck in your head. It's not to really, you know, it's not to create overwhelm, even though at the time it might be an uncomfortable experience or you might feel a bit tired or drained after it. They're kind of encouraging just going through the exercise or the notion of it here. Obviously you do what you want, this is just what's coming through, but what they're saying this would lead to is like a transformative, transcendent way of thinking or seeing the situation, where you have genuine clarity around the situation. It's something here where it's like you can see more than you could see before, and it's like it's seeing a higher truth. Yeah. And it's kind of like bigger picture thinking, I want to say as well. So some of you, it's kind of like the version of like aerial view, as opposed to seeing something up close and front on. Do you know what I mean? So it's like the bigger picture, having more information, knowing the lay of the land, understanding what is and what isn't, and all the factors involved. And to a degree, being like, it's like fundamental logic and being a little bit cutthroat when you need to be. So it's like this is kind of like overruling emotions with what is the best outcome for overall, or what makes sense, and what do we know and what do we not. And sometimes in our communication, we need to just be a little bit more blunt. I'm not, do you know, guys, I feel like it's one thing that I do way too much in these videos, and, you know, maybe I'll continue to do it, maybe I won't, we'll find out. Disclaimers. And it's like a real thing, right? Like, I don't know who's coming into the videos sometimes. Like, there are times where I get the same people come through all the time, and that's fantastic because they'll get a general idea of, you know, the topics that come up and how we speak of them and all of that. But it is really not my responsibility how the information is received. I can do the best that I can to kind of explain it. When I put out disclaimers, sometimes I feel it just takes away from the actual reading, okay? So it's kind of, yeah. Anyway, so there's something here where it's like, I don't know for some of you if there's a background of like, or a history of potentially people pleasing, or feeling like you need to tread lightly kind of around other people's, you know, emotions, or taking on more than your fair share of like the responsibility of a situation. It's actually just seeing things exactly for what they are, very just black and white. This is mine, this is yours. I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to apologize. Boom. If I lay it out on the table and it doesn't sound nice, but I've not really done anything wrong, it just is what it is, all right? So that said, moving on, then keep it going. Okay, so I feel like we've got that first part done. I do feel called to say, for some of you, that there's something, I think you guys will find that you might feel very blunt and very cutthroat at the time, but I think there's something here where it's like you're being trusted in this in a way, like, yes, this is part of this is a weird reading. It's kind of like an education of these 4 pillars of communication I know nothing really about other than my lived experience and what's coming through in the reading, okay? But there's something here where you might feel like you come off like really cutthroat or really blunt, but there's also something here that they're kind of saying that you actually are articulate. There is part of you that is like diplomatic, and there is part of you that like is actually quite eloquent. So what to you may feel really harsh is actually a cut above the rest, okay? So that said, we don't need to. Okay, cool. All right, so the first one is kind of like, yeah, being objective, clear communication, the big picture, taking everything into account. Yeah. Yeah, okay, next part. So we're going to take a lot of those qualities that there is, that like transcendent eloquence and clear communication that we do have to kind of separate our feelings out from, where we do have to be objective and whatnot. And it's like that coming together and wrapping up with an energy of being a well-rounded person, a person who has high values and morals, what am I trying to say? Like high moral ground or something like that. So it's basically like, I'm hearing lived values. So I think it's the point that like you are a person that has values, you know what they are, you do have like some type of moral high ground, but I feel like it's quite genuine, it's quite well-rounded. You as a person are quite well-rounded throughout your lived experience. There's something here about like kind of wanting the best for everyone. And so it's like you're in some ways in a position to be able to see things from a place that is, I don't know, what I would say is like the opposite of a lack mentality, because sometimes we're in a state of lack mentality, it can kind of cloud the way that we see things. And so there's something about being in a position where we can see things that is kind of more mature, more nurturing, more holistic to a situation, taking into account all the different elements like the feelings and, people's reactionary instinctive traits, as well as like, being that well thought out part and having all the facts, and then also just having the ability to hold space in a way that is actually productive, and we can allow things to kind of be put out there and acknowledge them and gracefully kind of move on with that being embodied. So there's something here where those two kind of come together, where it's like, yes, we are very well-rounded, but we also have the ability to be very objective and communicate in a transcendent manner that is quite eloquent. But it's like having I'm hearing like a good conscience, but I was also hearing like being very confident. So it's like you are confident, and you have a great level of conscience. So there's something here where it's like you could be like being well orientated. And what I was trying to say in the beginning before going on that tangent is kind of an energy of like having like more of an altruistic energy, or understanding that there is more often than not ways that we can find like win-win scenarios and solutions for people, where it's not necessarily one-sided, and not necessarily in every case does someone actually have to lose out or suffer some type of like loss just because one person can win. There are ways that we can kind of be a little bit more creative in our solutions to things, that, or at least we can try, that at least gets a bit of buy-in here with people, and at least gives people the chance to kind of feel heard or something like that, okay? All right, so we've got like our objective communication, seeing the whole picture very clearly, kind of having all the information or taking things into account. We've got this like transcendent nature where we can communicate from a place of holistically wanting the best for everybody, but also being a very well-rounded person kind of at our core. Like we've already, navigated so much of life, and we really want to take care of people, okay? So it's like a genuine intentions, I would say. A genuine intentions and wanting good for everybody involved. Now, the next part of this pillar of communication, so we have the Empress and the Eight of Wands. So there is like, you do have to acknowledge your position, okay? So there is something here where it's like, you are all those things that we've discussed, or you have the ability to be all those things that we've discussed, where I feel like you've already done the groundwork and you've already kind of, been able to embody different elements. There's an energy here where it's coming down to self-worth and willpower and things like that, or to the effect of. So it's like, you know your position, you know that you're actually good and cut out for the job, whatever it is, and that even if you don't totally feel super confident, which I feel like in this energy you should, because you know your worth, you know your grit, you know your ability, you know your competency and all of that, it's like you could at least be compassionate enough to give something a go, and like whether that's modest or humble or however that makes you feel comfortable, mentally wrapping your mind around it, to give it a go. Know that you're human. You'll probably work it out pretty quickly. You might need to give yourself more grace. I feel like some of you might, I don't know, it's like, this is part of the pillars of communication. Some people get in their head too much. This is not necessarily you, but part of like why this pillar is coming in, right? Some people might get in their head too much. There might be like that whole perfectionism thing, bit of anxiety, bit of nervousness. What will they think? What are the expectations? Will I step on people's toes by accident? You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to be good at something. You're allowed to be the tall poppy and not expect to have like your head cut off from those below you. You're allowed to take up the sun and the spotlight. That's okay. You're allowed to be strong in all the ways that you are. You're allowed to be an embodied person who does embody duality as well. You can, that whole two truths can coexist. You're allowed to be a soft, nurturing person, but also a person who can be firm and actually stand up and fight for something when the time is right. You're allowed to kind of be humble in the way that you come across an earnest living, but you're also allowed to like really pour into emotional and creative spaces that are like just light and fluffy. Like it doesn't matter what it looks like for you. And there's that blend of like being kind of integrated with like a light and dark energy. We're all human, man. We're just doing the best that we can. Sometimes we access a lower state of consciousness. There are people that I feel like, their version of doing the best that they can is not really the best for other people. So this is why it's like really important with that moral high ground I was talking about, okay? And I want to clarify when I say moral high ground, sometimes that comes off, I don't know, I feel like I might be using it differently to how it would traditionally be used, where sometimes a moral high ground can kind of be being seen as being on your high horse or something like that, or having like a moral high ground that it's like inaccessible, like as if other people could not potentially reach that moral high ground. It's like a negative connotation. I don't know if I'm doing the best job explaining it, but I'm being very like, I'm trying to be, it's not meant to have a negative connotation. It's actually meant to be like actually having high moral standards. I think that's what I'm trying to say, okay? So yeah, and I don't know, it's like, it's okay to like, yeah, be this person that you know your position, you know your worth, and you're happy and willing to make something happen as well. And then it's like that thrust with like a determination, a motivation, a passion, and just the taking those steps and just seeing where it lands. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's like perfect or if it ends up being, the 10-year, tenfold legacy that ends up being highly fine-tuned down the track. You've got to start somewhere. So there's almost like an ability to let yourself be a self-starter, to give things a go. It's like having self-respect and self-love and not backing down, or like, it's like, again, kind of the opposite of a people pleaser energy, where it's like, you can still be very graceful in how you approach a topic, but you can also know and understand that being firm doesn't mean that you are not graceful. You can still be graceful and still hold a boundary, and at the same time understand that holding a boundary is not like about hurting another person. It's like that self-respect and whatnot, or respect for other people as well, right? Because I don't think when people first start learning about boundaries, it can very much sometimes potentially come off to people that aren't used to that as being a little bit offensive, or like a distance in the relationship, because there's like this change in dynamics that they might not understand if they don't understand boundaries themselves. And so sometimes what people don't understand is that boundaries are not just what's best for the person setting the boundary, but they're actually best for everyone involved as well, right? So things like that you could look at could be like professional kind of work ethic boundaries, where you have like a what is it? What am I trying to say? Professional and a client, that sort of thing. So there are ways in which that dynamic works very well, and we don't want to blur the lines. We don't want codependency, and we don't want the objective to kind of be skewed in any way by the inability to keep things very clear. Something like that. Okay, so I feel the need, and we're going to continue to do this. It's like we've got to be taking stock and summarizing as we go, okay? All right, so the first thing was like bigger picture thinking, being objective, being well thought out, taking everything into account, being kind of well thought through. But then there was also that like transcendent nature, and having that clarity and the ability to communicate things, even if they feel kind of firm, where it is just kind of straightforward, getting to the point, trusting that there is like an eloquence, or being articulate in how things are communicated, because of the level of clarity as well, when that message is delivered. Then there's also that whole, I'm just trying to retrace where we've gotten to, because I feel like we're getting quite far ahead, and I don't want to get to the end of this message and then it all seems like a bit of a blurry soup of what we've kind of come up with. Where are we up to? So everything we just talked about, and building on top of that is like being the well-rounded person, having the ability to like be really like nurturing and self-respecting and everything, having the holistic best interest of people kind of at the forefront, or like as the goal of like finding win-win solutions for what we want for ourselves and others, for everyone involved kind of thing. Having the ability to kind of take up space and know that there's nothing wrong with that, and that we are competent, confident people who have like a good conscience, that kind of, it's like the compass that keeps us directed towards like that altruistic outcome, cooperative outcome. I don't want to start repeating myself too much, but also it's like that self-love, self-respect, and then bleeding into the like being able to have boundaries, and being able to effectively take action, and understand that you can have more compassion and grace, like within maybe what you grant yourself as well as others. Yeah, so like genuine intentions. Okay, and then kind of the last part of this, I was trying to think of a quicker way to summarize that, but I feel like we're just getting the points across, and hopefully it makes sense to you guys. All right, so the very last one, 8 and 9. 8. What is seemingly the opposite of maybe an auspicious energy is like when things come in very quick and can get us in our heads, they can be really upsetting, exhausting, stressful, potentially eat into our sleep when things are hard hitting. It almost feels like a shock to a nervous system. So in essence, it's kind of the ability to receive like shocking information, or be on the receiving end of shocking situations in a sense, and granting ourselves the space to kind of process through something. So it's like, there is that whole not taking responsibility for the ways that others may be affected by things that, I don't know how to explain this in a way that it won't just be completely taken outside of context, but again, it's kind of not. There are people that are always going to misuse information, and there are always going to be people that will really benefit from information through the lens of education and understanding that they can kind of learn a new way in which they can navigate life. So it's like, some people need to be able to learn that they can kind of put something out there, and even if it is upsetting to other people, you don't need to like take that on. I feel like we already kind of roughly talked about that, but there's also like being on the receiving end of something that might come in and be really like hard hitting or get us really worked up or really anxious, really in our heads. There's like that processing, giving ourselves time or space. There's something else here I'm missing. I think it's genuinely just the ability to receive and process information in like a meaningful way, and like kind of getting past our ego, and again it's kind of like a completion of a circle in a way, where it's kind of like having the ability to come back to, it's like almost achieving neutrality after the hard hitting stuff has kind of dissipated, or having a way that we can kind of dissolve it, or allowing ourselves the space to be able to dissolve it. Okay, so yeah, being objective, bigger picture thinking, having all the information, or as much as practically or reasonably we kind of can have it, bigger picture thinking, having the ability to communicate it well, having the ability to kind of transcend something, holding boundaries, allowing ourselves to take up space, having self-compassion and grace, being very holistically kind of orientated, where we do want the best for ourselves and everyone else involved, like win-win scenarios. Letting ourselves kind of, again, having that grace when things are hard hitting, but also having the ability to take action towards things that are maybe more meaningful as well, is probably one of the points that I missed there. And then being on the receiving end of information that could actually be a bit of a shock to the nervous system, and kind of processing through that and having that time to dissipate anything that could be a lot, and essentially come back to neutrality. Okay, so we've got through that part. I'm just going to take a moment to see if I can get anything else come through. I know, I'm not really getting too much else, but, when I look at it, it's like, if we've come out of a time where we're not used to being in communication with others for a while, or trustful communication, or conducive communication, something like that. We've been like building ourselves up, and we're like maybe ready to kind of get back out there again in some ways, but also still in the back of our mind potentially having like those negative experiences that have happened to us. And it doesn't really feel like rumination, it just feels like a distrustfulness, or it feels like a just being all too aware of the reality of how others can, affect us. And so there is something here too, where it's like you can recognize that you can work on these 4 pillars of communication and how you navigate the world going forward, if that's something that you choose to do. And that might be something that, like, look, don't take my word for it, because I'm not studied in any of this sort of stuff. So I would say maybe if that's like a topic that interests you, you could spend a little bit of time looking into it online, or whatever your like favorite resources are. But there's something here too where I think they are trying to highlight that these are things that we should also look for in other people. You know, how well thought out are they? You know, how methodical are they? How transparent are they? How clear are they when they communicate? Do they actually put time and effort into the way that they communicate? Is what they say accurate? Is what they say well orientated? Do they have a conscience? Do they want what's best for everyone? Are they kind of holistically minded, or are they very narrow minded, or only developed in one area that seems kind of pointless without having the rest of, you know, what it takes to make up being a well orientated holistic person? And then, you know, do they have the ability to actually like sometimes have the hard conversation, or to actually take action in the world, or to kind of drive a purpose, or, you know, be motivated and go after things in life? And then at the same time, when we're on the receiving end of information that, you know, is hard hitting, how do we handle that stress? How do we handle the processing? And, you know, when there are times that it's kind of hard to be the person putting that out there, and I don't mean this in an ill-intended way, I mean like it could be holding a boundary that other people will have an adverse reaction to, that it's not really our responsibility to necessarily hold their hand. We all are responsible for our own ways of processing. And when I say this, I feel the need to kind of like just say that, you know, if you are facing situations where you have adverse, I don't know if that's the right word, like your circumstances, like extenuating circumstances where there's just too many different things to take into context, this may still be the good pillars to kind of base things off of, but maybe you need to take into extra account things like, you know, having support around you. And, you know, I realize there are things that are going to come first, right? Like if we're stuck in survival, some of this sort of stuff is going to be hard. But as much as it would be really hard to take on some of this, depending on how bad your survival state is and what you've got going on, some of this could, in like, what's the word? Greatly help your situation just through the ability to communicate more clearly or beneficially for everybody. I feel the need to say that for some of us, and this is probably myself included, we'll just take what resonates, is that like we could potentially miss out on really good opportunities here if we don't have the ability to like remain neutral and kind of look at some of these different factors and like within ourselves and how we communicate on our end of, you know, some type of like interaction, okay? But also like what are the things that we're looking for in other people? What really matters to us, and what is conducive to a healthy relationship? What is conducive to like longevity in community relationships, you know? So there's that as well. Okay, is there anything else here that I need to mention, or any more cards that we need to take? No. Okay, so that's everything that I have for you today, Group 1. Hopefully this is helpful to you in some way. Yeah, I don't know, this is an interesting one. Definitely let me know if this was helpful. I'll see you in another one. Okay, welcome in Group 2. If you chose the spoon, then this will be your reading for today. We're just going to see whatever comes through and go from there. So the first card that I have is like 9 of Swords. And I was getting something about you don't know. And it felt like it was almost going to go into a song or some other information come through. And even though it did this like several times, it just didn't get any further. It was like cut off. Like, it was like, I don't know, trying to take off somewhere on the tip of my tongue, could not come out. And the 9 of Swords is like really painstaking. So it could just be something like feeling hopeless, not knowing what to do, not knowing what direction to take, not knowing how to make a situation better, or what actually happened to put us in that state in the first place. But we also have the Knight of Wands, and I feel like this is a person looking in and observing something and waiting for a moment to kind of come towards you in some way. And I feel like it's like a very instinctual thing for them. It's very innate to them. I don't think they would have to really think about this. I don't really think this is a person that particularly thinks a lot as it is anyway. They just kind of see something. It's like Wands for me is like decisional energy where they didn't have to think about it. It's like they see something and they instantly know that's what I want to do, or that's what I'm doing. I'm almost getting a little bit of like a stir crazy energy leading into what has the most force propelling it. And I don't think force is the right word. It's like, what has the most fire propelling it? What direction do they want to? It's like this person almost wants more fuel, but they already have heaps of fuel. Feels kind of a weird way to explain it, but it's like, where is the passion? And it's like they're seeking out what the best thing is, or the next best thing, or something like that. And I don't mean it in a shallow way, even if it could come off as shallow. I think for them, there is infinite amount of value in whatever the next thing is, so much so that they're very focused. Fire energy to me is usually very focused on something. So I heard the male gaze, so just take what resonates there. So whether that's this person is male and gazing at you, or whether this is like something about you, because it was like, oh guys, do you know, I'm getting something here. So it was literally like the Nine of Swords was to me reference of our viewer, you here, the audience listening to this reading, and this Knight of Wands being someone outside of yourself, where it's like some of you may be anxious about the male gaze. You may feel a little bit tormented by feeling put on display. For those of you where this is on the other foot, where, because I know I do have like masculine energies coming through quite a lot in my readings as well. Welcome. There may be something here where, I don't know, I don't really like touching on political stuff, but it's coming through, so whatever. Take it with a grain of salt. If it doesn't serve you, just like, you can hold down the fast forward on my reading. You can skip through this bit. If it doesn't feel like this reading is for you, you can always click off. And but you know, you're welcome here. Anyway, so it's like, some of you may feel like some of this kind of feminism stuff, you know, there's lots. I just need to start by setting, like, I don't know, the parameter, setting the stage, right, for this conversation is that online there is an infinite amount of echo chambers that like, I can't even imagine how many there are that are very niche, targeting on specific conversations and ideas and stereotypes that have played out over time and blah blah blah. But what I need to come back to is that they are in fact echo chambers. So and I see it happening through my own technology and the algorithms that kind of pop up, and it doesn't take much, right? But what I need to highlight is that it is an echo chamber. So technology very much uses us. We're in an age where technology uses us. We have incredible control and ability to use technology ourselves, but unless you can be like very mentally aware or mindful of this, and you are actually in the driving seat of where you're taking this ship, it will take you places. And when we are looking at the echo chambers, we're very much just having the same information regurgitated and reverberated back to us constantly. Like, kind of, if we had like I want to say like a hexagon or an octagon, or I don't know, any of those shapes, right? We've got like the flat edges on all the different angles to kind of make it up. It's just information going from one to another, and it's just back and forth, this way, that way. And it just kind of like, we never really get outside of the conversation. We never really have any higher view unless you're more mindful to that. And I'm not saying that you guys here are not mindful to that, but I want you to know that there are specific kind of narratives going around that it doesn't necessarily mean it's representative of people in general. Sometimes it is, okay? All right. Anyway, now that I feel like we've kind of got some of that out of the way, we can move on. And so what I want to say is like the feminism thing, right? I love people. If you're a human, good job. like, and no one's like better than anyone, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, there's this whole conversation that goes on about like, what is true feminism? Is it kind of allowing ourselves to be in a receiving, being taken care of, being provided for? What does that look like? Is it being a mother? Is it not being a mother? This day and age doesn't always allow for people to kind of step into that freely to make choices so easily, where, you know, a lot of women are like, it's very hard to have a family because you also need to be financially providing as well. And I understand that's going to look differently for everyone, no matter what country you're in, and what your immediate environment is, what your sort of socio-economic status is, and blah, blah, blah. I've never said blah, blah, blah so many times already. Anyway, and so what I'm talking about when I'm referring to this feminism, it's like the very over-the-top stuff. It's the very much like, and I'm not saying that there's not weight to some of the different things that come up. I'm not really here to have like an opinion on it, but I'm just here to kind of broach the topic for you. This is that thing where it's like, some of you guys may have seen women that have been on the receiving end of not nice treatment, you know, from the masculine counterparts and whatnot, or different cultural aspects. And I feel like you have this natural fire energy that wants to take action, move towards, step naturally into that role, and kind of have like come together in a union that is actually quite healthy. And there's something here where you may almost be a little bit hesitant because of like some of the cultural kind of narratives that get thrown around, whether that's on the internet or if it's like an immediate friend group or something like that. I don't know what it is. But it's like, you want to maybe move towards someone, but there's maybe part of you that feels like it's wrong to kind of move towards someone, like it would be offensive, like it would be hurtful. And I feel like part of where this is going is that if you are, you know, honoring things like consent, and you are treating the person as a person, you're being respectful, and, you know, being transparent, and just letting things kind of unfold naturally, like there's no manipulative stuff, and you're not, I don't know how to explain it. How do we bridge the gap between what is ABUSE? I'm kind of spelling things out just for the YouTube stuff, but it's like, if that's something, it's like you're scared that you might come off in that way, and I don't think you are. I don't know if you know that that's been something that you have, you know, lived so far, and that there's maybe a bit of work around it. Well, then, you know, maybe you realize that there's a level of self-control, or there's things that you can do to kind of get educated on it, or to kind of, it gives me a little bit of an energy of just giving it a go in like a very controlled, safe way, where it's kind of like, maybe I don't really come towards you, but I just kind of dip my toe in the water. And maybe that looks like, you know, maybe I've done a little bit of my own work, or I've, this doesn't really seem like I said, it's not really an energy where it's like necessarily looking into things too much. It's just like seeing something that you want to go after, and like having that natural inclination to move towards it, but feeling like you can't because of whatever this situation is, or the narrative, or the self-beliefs, or something, I don't know. And it's like you're butting up against this wall. Maybe you don't come off too strong. Maybe you don't go in too hard. Maybe it's subtle things like saying hello. Like, I don't know how else to say it, okay? I hope this isn't just like too much of a tangent, but it's really what I'm getting, okay? And it's like finding a way that you can take action in a gentle way, or something like that. I don't know if that's helpful. I don't know. If this is helpful, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I'm not qualified to speak on this, but it's a message coming through, okay? Go easy on me. All right, anyway, so you've had those two come through. So some people here are kind of like adverse to the male gaze, and there are other people here that are kind of like, feel like their male gaze is potentially offensive to people. And there is also people here that it's like, I'm sure that the male gaze is not offensive to you at all. And in fact, you may be one of the people that are kind of like attracting a male gaze, And I don't know if you're not sure how it makes you feel, or if you are wondering why there's not more of that. I kind of like, I have to say times have changed, right? Social media, internet dating apps and all that stuff. It's like a very different landscape to like the old thing of just walking up to a person and having a conversation, okay? I think it makes everyone feel weird. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying the conversation part, the dating app part, right? It's like, it's kind of stopped people having conversations. And yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really here to have an opinion or an input on it, but I don't know how to navigate it. There is something here where they're asking this to come back down to like tradition and not always having, I don't know, what is it? Give me a second. I just heard traditional beliefs get you nowhere. So take what resonates here with this when we go. I'm hearing find new ways of doing things, trusting your gut, being led by your intuition. It's some sort of energy of like being a teacher through being a role model. So some of you may actually be aware, I just need to say if I didn't get it before, because I just feel like there's going to be like one or two people that are like, don't feel like you really fit into any of the situations that kind of come up at the start. You may very much be like a feminine in this kind of Knight of Wands energy where you're like really wanting to go after, when I say go after, I mean like passionately, romantically step towards or initiate a connection here with the masculine, and you're not really sure how to do it, where it may kind of put you in more of like an anxious state or something like that. And it's like, you're not sure if it's okay for you to do that either because it just seems weird or something. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't feel weird, but you feel like you don't want to come off too strong or something like that as well. So just whatever, take what resonates here. Okay, so back to this. Yeah, it definitely seems like there's some type of like cultural, societal thing that potentially could be built up in your head. And I'm hearing you don't need to worry about it. So I feel like, you know, if you know that you're acting with integrity and having respect for other people's like sovereignty is probably like the biggest thing that I can kind of point out. Yeah, I don't know. Is it too scary to have a conversation? It makes me think of when there's two people that might potentially like to come together, but no one ever actually reaches out to someone because everyone's kind of too scared, or everyone's too in their head, or no one wants to take action, or people feel wrong for kind of just initiating a conversation or something. Like, it's like I get the energy of no one wants to offend each other, no one wants to come off too strong, no one wants to yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is right, guys. What's coming through, it's like, I don't know if I'm on the right track with this. I hope that what I'm saying is actually helpful to you. Yeah. I do also feel the need to say some of you could be attracting a lot of like evil eye. So it's not just evil eye. A lot of it is just attention. Okay. So there genuinely could be people here in this group that are attracting a lot of, attention in terms of like passion and being attractive, and people that actually do want to step towards you is probably more the point. And for some of you, it could feel like a lot. For some of you, it could feel invasive. For some of you, could actually attract a lot of evil eye, like a negative kind of energy or attention from this. So this could look like unwarranted like attention, but it also could look like, when you're the person I can't speak, the person garnering lots of attention, then you may have others that could perceivably be or put themselves in competition with you over whoever's attention that you're actually garnering in some way. So that's also something else to just be mindful of. And I feel like with this group, if anything, you would be all too well aware of it. And this might be part of the thing that's a bit upsetting to you. It's almost like being cursed because you're good looking, or being cursed because you're confident, or being cursed because, I don't know, you're just attractive. Like, it doesn't even matter how you classify it. Being cursed because somebody else finds you attractive. Heaven forbid somebody on this planet finds you attractive and it offends somebody else, or like makes someone else feel uncomfortable or something like that, okay? I don't know. I do have to say I am getting an energy that, like, for some of you may just feel very uncomfortable in your body because of that. Others of you may just feel uncomfortable in your body in general, but it's almost like this fire energy is very helpful to you in kind of just ignoring a lot of the regurgitation and the thing, you know, all the stereotyping about what's attractive and what's not. Do you know what's most attractive is just when you don't care. Don't care, love yourself, move on with life, find the things that light you up, and like, I don't know, I kind of get the energy of like, let's go. I don't know, just take what resonates. Anyway, so for some of you guys, you could be starting again. So you could be, I don't know if you're newly single or been single for a while, or it's like going into, I don't know if it's uncharted territory, even though it's not like this is your first rodeo and having done this before. For some of you, this could be going into a new area, but it's like you've already got that base knowledge. For others of you, it's like you've done this before, even if the game's changed a little bit. It's like, you know, I don't know, it's like I just can't help but see that there is some type of experience or knowledge in just general navigating situations that's helpful too. So it might feel like starting again, but you're not really back at square one. Maybe you're more at like square five because you do have that little bit more experience or something. So it's like new start energy. And so Six of Swords for me is not always necessarily, a lot of the times it can be kind of self-initiated, but it's not really because you looked out the window and thought the grass is greener. It's usually because you're put between like a rock and a hard place. Like you didn't always necessarily have another choice. And if you did have another choice, the other choice was like destruction or being at the hand of somebody else's destruction or something like that. So yeah, this is very much like, I don't know, I actually wonder if some of these energies that are coming through today are a little bit about like broaching the topic of like maybe putting yourself back out there in the dating market in some way. It doesn't have to be, it could be friendships as well, but just connections kind of in general. And so if you're very apprehensive of this, I would not urge you to push yourself in any way that would be detrimental to you, but we're just passing on the messages that are coming through, because some of you this is not necessarily meant to be saying to get out there. For some of you this is meant to be, I don't know, some type of like validation, acknowledgement, or a little bit of like, I almost get like a little bit of a healing energy that might come through. Some of you, what might actually happen is that you find yourself on the receiving end to some type of attention through people finding you attractive, but it's actually kind of gentle, or it's actually kind of distant, or it's consensual, or it's very wholesome or respectful in some way, where it has like a healing effect on you or your kind of mentality around the topic. Okay. So they're saying that that's everything and that I don't need anything more for this. I'm just going to take a moment and just make sure that there's nothing here that I've missed, but no, they're just reconfirming that's everything. Okay. Hopefully this is helpful to you guys in some way, and I'll catch you in another reading. Take care, guys. Okay, welcome in group 3. If you chose the fork, then this will be your reading for today. And to see whatever comes through. I do have to say that we have had the Six of Swords come out in all like the other 2 piles as well as this one today, even using all different decks. So it definitely seems to be a bit of like a collective energy. Also potentially broaching on the topic of like new connections or new, whether that's platonic or romantic, but definitely even potentially getting back on the market in some way, however you perceive that. So yeah, for some of you, this could be a little bit more fresh than the other piles, where you may feel like you have just newly had to step out or start again, or you could still kind of be on the journey through the separation as opposed to being like readily emotionally available or something like that as well. So just take what resonates here. Yeah, and it does seem like there's definitely a lot of work, maybe not a lot of work, but there's definitely work to be done here around whatever your old situation was. And if it's not your old situation, like if your old situation was pretty clean cut and pretty, I don't know, like amicable, or maybe there was not really any problems and things just kind of, you just drifted apart and nothing really bad happened. There could be something here where it's like time for you that maybe you don't have so much work to do around that particular relationship, but maybe just a bit of inner work or something. You could be doing a bit of soul searching during this time, or maybe you're in need of doing some soul searching, because it's like that coming back to finding you, who you are in your soul, what it is that lights you up, and making the most out of what you've got, and kind of getting a little bit, I got the word instrumental, but I was going to say resourceful, so just take what resonates there. It's like having the ability to kind of pull something out of nothing. Like when you look around, I've got to say, actually, I'm getting a thought come to mind. So let's pretend you went through a time where this is just an analogy and it'll apply in all different ways. It's not necessarily representative of you guys at this point in time. So just an example. Maybe you went through a time where you didn't have a lot of money, and maybe one of the only things that you had was a skateboard. And so part of your, I don't know, being bored, finding freedom, doing something different, learning a new skill, or doing something for you, or doing something different, doing something like physical exercise, good for health and whatever, getting outside of the house, or maybe you had friends that did it too, or something like that, was something, I don't know, maybe all you had was a skateboard. Maybe you didn't have a bike, so you couldn't, maybe you would have preferred once upon a time to go for a bike ride, but the skateboard was it. And so when you went through that time, you gave the board a go. Maybe, I don't know, maybe something about your situation was kind of like different, where it was like, maybe you wouldn't have really normally reached for it. Maybe it just was nostalgic or looked pretty, or you just didn't really think to sell it or something. Maybe the idea of it was nice and you never really gave it a go, and then something about your situation, you just weren't really left with a lot. So you pick up your skateboard and you give it a go, and then boom, all of a sudden it's like all these positive benefits are coming in, and now all of a sudden you're challenging yourself to like do more and get better. So whatever that looks like to you, but yeah. Also getting, so I can't really tell. I'm just going to throw out a few things that I'm getting, and just hopefully something sticks for you guys. Getting the energy of like tattoos being a thing. So I don't know if that's something here where it's like, if some of you have been thinking about getting a tattoo, or ungetting a tattoo, like getting a tattoo like lasered off or something. I don't know, just whether you're meant to or not. For some of you, I was getting like Merkaba, or like, what is it? Come on. I don't know. I'm just getting more words. So like geographic, geopathic, energy could be a thing as well. So that could look like ley line healing, or it could look like finding an area to live that is more conducive to your energy if you guys are highly sensitive. But there's also something, geometric patterns. That's what I was trying to think of. Okay, so some of you guys, geometric patterns, mandalas, Merkaba, like clear channel, chakra alignment, healthy energy flow, meridians. What else have we got? Being open to the universe, being open to new ideas, being open to new beliefs, letting go of self-limiting beliefs, understanding that this is a new start. Some of you guys could potentially be trying to fix, control, manipulate an old situation here, that it's really time to let a new energy come in. It's maybe potentially gone into stagnant energy, or it's like we're giving it too much attention as opposed to kind of just being done with it or moving on from it in some way. Like kind of getting hung up on something here, but I don't know. I feel like Spirit even if you don't resonate with being a particularly spiritual person, even though a lot of the words I had come out were probably things that new agey spiritual people would be, would resonate with more potentially. It's like you are being spiritually led, whether you know this or not. So I feel like you have particularly 3 people, whether that is in body or in spirit, that are helping guide you in some way right now. So again, take what resonates. You may not necessarily see them or acknowledge them to actually be a guide. So they could just look like a really helpful friend, or they could look like a person who's insightful that maybe you don't have a lot of contact with, but in some way they kind of are a leader in what they do, or they are somehow displaying an example or role modeling behavior to you that maybe you look at this person and you see it as just like an equal friendship and you don't really have anything to learn from them, but you don't realize that you're picking up on the way that they navigate life, the decisions that they make, how they handle situations and communicate. And you're actually learning a lot more from this person and taking on a lot more than you realize. And so in some way, I would say you may like to think that you're the teacher or that you have nothing to learn from them, but there is in fact still so much more learning that you can do. And I don't just mean in this situation, I mean in life in general. And that's not to put anybody down or to downplay anybody's previous experiences or knowledge that you have, because I do feel like there is a body or a wealth of knowledge and experience here as well. It's just like not getting caught or hung up on that aspect. And so I understand that might be a little bit... it may not be so comfortable to kind of want to detach from that, because you know, if you are a very competent, knowledgeable person, then that can, you know, be part of like our ego. It's like part of our identity, and how we navigate the world, and something to be proud of. And you should be proud of that. And it's part of being a well-rounded human being. There's no reason why you shouldn't be proud. But that's not all there is to life, and there's always something else to learn for everyone. Yeah. Okay. So for some of you guys, you may be, if that first part doesn't resonate, or on top of or end as well, there could be like an energy here to starting again and not really wanting to start again. Like maybe you're really in the thick of it. It feels yuck. It feels gross. It feels depressing. Maybe it's hard to just get a move on. Maybe you guys are like crying on the couch every day for 2 months while you're pretty depressed and you don't really want to get out and do things. And I feel like you're getting a push to get outside. Get out the house, go do something different, break it up a little bit. But you obviously do whatever it is that you want to do. This is just the message that's coming through. I do feel like some of you could do with like a bit of an energy healing or cleanse in some way. So whatever that means to you, that you could kind of feel would be helpful to you or accessible. And there could be a message here. Actually, I don't think it's a message to withdraw. I think some of you could actually be a bit more withdrawn, or you found the only way you could kind of move on from your old situation was to become withdrawn. And it could have been a little bit isolating, but I feel like it was a time for you to kind of fine tune and learn your discernment, and to be in a bit more of a, I don't know if it's like a backseated energy, but it's like a little bit of withholding your energy. And I'm getting something about like withholding your energy it's like doesn't go astray. I think there are times where it's really good to be kind of a bit more reserved, or to not necessarily be out there spreading ourselves thin and pouring into everyone, especially when we like don't really have capacity for ourselves. But it's also more about that discernment. It's like, well, you know, who kind of does deserve my energy, and who's actually going to treat it with respecting the careness and the weight that it deserves and needs. And like, what's a reciprocal relationship look like for me, and who am I actually going to have a solid foundation to kind of do the distance with. And so it's a little bit being selective or picky or choosy, having a higher standard for yourself. I actually feel like that's a really good thing for this group, so just take what resonates. Yeah, and then for others of you guys, so that even just that having that higher standard could be something that does make you feel a little bit more alone at times. But like Spirit is reiterating to you, if you have not heard it before, that, you know, there's like a light or a magic within that will serve you endlessly. And it's kind of like home. I always, when I was doing a lot of energy healing work, I would always repetitiously for different people get messages about like, you have everything you need within you, or like home is within you, or like what it is you need to heal is within you. And so it's that sometimes we may not choose to be alone, but there is something that is for our highest good that will serve us so much more in the long term if we have the ability to sit with it or just make the most of our situation. And so maybe at the start that looks like crying on the couch every day for 2 months, and then maybe we get to a point where we're kind of done with that. We kind of step out of stagnancy. Maybe we just get acquainted with it and we're accepting and we're cool with that. And after that, maybe it looks like starting to enjoy your own company. Maybe you go through times where you are lonely, but maybe when you look out at the stars of a night time or the moon, you feel really connected. Even if it's not necessarily with other people, it's kind of like that energetic connectedness with the universe, which in tandem is with other people, and it can kind of calm everything down and anchor you in those moments. And in some sense of the word, it is like I want to say like dual jointed kind of connectedness. It's like, what I'm trying to say is that your Earth Star chakra will get really reconnected or strengthened connection with the earth, where you're feeling that connectedness and the belonging and the breathing and the natural calm to the body, that kind of decompressing energy. It's safe for me to be here. It's okay for me to be here. I belong being here. It's almost, I don't know how to really explain it, but it's like the same way that the gazelle naturally belongs on the plains of Africa because that's its home, because like there's no justifying it. It just belongs. It just is. It is part of the earth. We are all part of the earth. You are part of the earth, right? So there's that side of it there. The beach just is part of the earth. Do you know what I mean? And starting to get a little bit lost going on a tangent, so hopefully we can bring that back in. But it's like, I don't know. Has there just been too much, like, I don't know. Maybe like whatever you went through, it's like you're kind of going through the notions of different mental processing or something, whatever that looks like. I feel like you guys will get there. You're probably more equipped than what you think you are. You're probably, I feel like some of you guys would be quite humble, or you could potentially be a little bit harsh, have a harsher inner critic or something, but you're actually really introspective, and it's the difference between you and other people, right? So not everybody else is as introspective of you, so not everybody else is going to put themselves through the paces like you would, and so there is a call for you to be a little bit more compassionate to yourself, and to give yourself a little bit more grace and a little bit more time. I think there's something here about time. Maybe you guys aren't used to honoring your time, or maybe you've just like come out of a time where it was like you didn't get downtime, and now you're finally getting downtime, okay? And this downtime is good for you. And I think that even if it takes a long time for you to see some sort of tangible result, it is there, it is coming. A lot of it's under the surface that you're not going to see or recognize for quite a while. So what that could look like is you're building the foundations in terms of like your confidence and competence and solar plexus and willpower and things like that. It doesn't have to be, but it's like things that they have a tangible real world effect, but you can't see them, especially in the early stages, until, you know, it starts to kind of just shine out of you like as a natural part of yourself. So some of you guys, it's actually putting in the groundwork to some type of like foundation, but it's also like you're trying to grow something, but you could be starting from scratch. Like you very much could be building a business from the ground up, where you actually have no experience in having done something like that before. So some of you guys, this could be exiting out of a relationship and looking at building foundational kind of security to free up space or something like that to come in. But for others of you, it's like you could have actually left a job, been fired, quit, I don't know, been made redundant, found yourself in a position where maybe that didn't work for your family, so you had to make a change and now you don't know what to do next. I don't really know what this looks like, just take what resonates here. But I think there is some type of higher calling, higher power, higher knowledge here to be acknowledged, and you may not, if you're not like a really spiritual person, maybe find calm in like horticultural activities, and maybe that is a call for you to go, this is what feels good to me. How can I make this work in my everyday life where I can potentially kind of do something that is good for me, that can has security and makes me feel good or make the most out of my situation. I don't know what that looks like for you. Hey, just going to take a breath, take a second. I just hope for some of you guys that what you need to know about yourself is that you need to try harder. So some of you guys, I don't know, it's like Six of Swords to me is also exhausting as well. So you may, and it can also be lacking direction because you've really like haven't even broached the other side of whatever it is that you're coming out of or coming through. So it's like you haven't even hit the land yet. But like when you get there, you don't know what way you would, it's like, what way is up? What way do I go? What's practical? I don't even know what type of situation I'm going to have when I get there. So how would I know what would best suit that situation? And they kind of want you to drop all of the what ifs or what hasn't happened yet or the where you're at now, and just kind of be a little bit idealistic about it and just go, what would I want to do? Get a little bit cutthroat with yourself, or kind of push yourself to actually say, maybe you need to sit down and do one, I don't know what they're called, like a brainstorming activity, right? You know, what is it that you want to do? And throw out a few different examples in separate clouds, and or what do you want them to look like? It's like a mapping activity where it's like, you know, what are characteristics of a type of industry or a career that you would like them to have, and see if any of them overlap in the different careers that come up or something like that. It's something where it's like, maybe you do need to, I don't know, it's part of me, I needs to say, it's like, I feel like this is a journey that only you can do, you yourself, and no one else can give you the answer, and that it is something you do need to take the time to do. I feel like you'll have plenty of time here, whatever this situation is. Even if it doesn't feel like it, you know, sometimes the way that spirit gives us time is forcibly wakes us up at 2 a.m. and we can't go back to sleep till 4. So you've got plenty of time to think about it, right? And if it doesn't look like that, you might actually just have time where you're on holidays, or all of a sudden the kids are with the parents or family or friends' places, and you don't know what to do with yourself. I don't know what that looks like. I feel like you probably have more time than others to think about this, but it's like, I'm just getting words like foundational, practical, helpful. You know, what are those things that you would look for? What else do we have? Yeah, it's like redefining where we want to take action in our lives. So there does feel like potentially a little bit of hesitancy to leave what feels comfortable or what we know so far. Or maybe, I don't know. There's something here. I wonder if some of you, it's like you're getting caught up in the soul searching as opposed to picking something to do and just seeing how it serves you or what it feels like, and making a judgment call later as to whether you keep on with it or not. It's like you could potentially be holding yourself back in some way. So it could be a little bit of a self-sabotaging energy. So there could be some stuff there that you need to kind of ask yourself or work through, like, well, why don't I want to take a step forward right now? And does that look like being scared? Does it look like perfectionism? Does it look like I'm not sure if I'm going to be good at this? I'm not sure if it's going to be, you know, secure or stable. I don't know if I'm really going to want to do that in 10 years. Does it matter if you're not going to want to do it in 10 years? Or is it something that you might do for 2 years and change your mind again anyway? I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's everything that I have for you guys today. Group 3. Hopefully this is helpful in some way, and I will see you all in another one. Take care.